This will, yes, okay. So let me start by saying good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Town Center Road Diet meeting. My name is Ahmad Al-Shafi. I'm the Chief of the Traffic and Transportation Division, and we want to thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to start the meeting just at the beginning. I want you to know that it's being recorded. So from this point on, the meeting is recorded. So just you'll be aware of that. I'm going to start the meeting by just giving a quick introduction about the project, and then we'll present the plans and you look at them. Hopefully you had a chance to review them online, but if not, you'll have an opportunity to see what we have so far in our preliminary design. And then we will have some time to go over some questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations, anything you want to share with us. We are here to hear that. And finally, we will give you also some emails at the end, so you can send us your comments, or if others could not attend tonight, they will be able to provide their comments for us maybe for the next week or so we can move on the next level of the design for this project. So as a background, I just want to give you an idea, how did we reach this point, or how did we start this project, and why we are here tonight, and how did we reach this point? About a couple years ago, there is an organization called the Urban Land Institute, short for ULI. They visited the city in early 2019, and they submitted a report, I believe it was July 2019, with some recommendations. And some of those recommendations were to implement a road diet project on both North Washington Street and East Middle Lane. And the goal was to boost business in Town Square by adding parking, slowing down traffic, improving the pedestrian experience, the bicycle experience, and make the town center more vibrant. So the mayor and council were very interested in this project, and they asked staff to look at it and see how can we move on this fairly quickly. But we felt that we need to look at it a little bit carefully, because there are a lot of concerns that we have to make sure that we are looking at it, analyzing them, and make sure that the traffic will be fine, the parking spaces will be okay, the bike lanes, the buffers. So we started coming up with some concepts, options to look at them, where the bike lanes will go, where the parking will go, and we share them with the community, specifically the pedestrian and the bike community. The committees, RPAC and RBAC, have been involved in it, and the mayor and council finally make a decision on which options to go with. And at this point, the CIP was created, and then later on, actually, RPAC recommended to add an element to the project, which is a sidewalk widening on the south side of East Middle Lane between North Washington and Maryland Avenue, which we have added in the scope of this work. So Stas, I guess you can go to the next slide, if you will. I mean, nothing major here. I just want to describe again what this project is about. It is we are designing and we are planning to construct a new cross section really for both streets you see here, North Washington Street and East Middle Lane. As you see, North Washington from 28 up north to 355, and East Middle Lane from North Washington to 55 on the east side. And bottom line, what we are trying to do is we are trying to reduce the number of travel lanes in each direction, so it will be traffic will be a little bit slower, less traffic, hopefully, and be able to add some parking, which is very valuable in town center, and add some features to improve safety and walkability for pedestrians, for bikes, and so forth. And as I said, the project also include the widening of the sidewalk on the south side of Middle Lane between Washington and Maryland. So we are presenting tonight the plans or preliminary plans that we have so far. We have a consultant on board, which I'll present in a second. And the goal is to get feedback from you all and see what you like, what you don't like. You'll see some features that we added here that some of them we've never been done in the city before. But we are really trying to make this a very good project. We know it's going to be very visible. It's in town center, and it's very important for everybody, residents, businesses, mayor and council, the city, the economy in general for Rockville. So we are excited to be here. So just a quick note, we have our staff here. I want to mention quickly, we have Daniel Seo, he is our principal transportation engineer with the city, traffic transportation division, and he's a project manager for this project. We also have Brian Barnett Woods. He is our pedestrian bike coordinator, principal transportation planner. We have Harman Cordero from our city manager office. He's senior neighborhood coordinator, and this is city staff. And then we have our consultant, Mr. Seth Darlington. He's a consultant. He's a project manager with Wallace Montgomery, and he will walk us through the plans, and then we will try to answer as many questions as we can. And as I said, we will provide some information for you to be able to contact us so we can respond to you or get your comments in the next few days if we cannot get them tonight. So I think with that, I'll turn it on to Seth. So that's all yours.
Thanks, Ahmad. I'm going to bring up the plans in a minute, and we can walk right through the project. I guess I'll explain the plans before we get into them, how to read them, how to look at them. Not everyone might be up to speed on the technical nature of the plans, so we'll talk about that a little bit, and also the as Ahmad was saying, what the goal of this project is, a road diet, and I guess I'm going to start with a good definition of a road diet. It's not putting a road on a keto diet or anything like that. It's not shrinking the roadway. It's really just reallocating the space within the roadway to enhance the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists. And that's really the key goal, is safety and usability for all of the users. So I'm going to switch over here, switch screens here. Let's see if this works. Okay, panelists, can we tell me that we are showing the plans? Yes, excellent. So Ahmad was saying that we're the limits of the work here are Washington at 355 down to Jefferson, and then middle from Washington to 355 itself. We're going to start at the north end of the project here. So you can see on these plans, north is left. It's kind of going to mess you up a little bit. This is the intersection with 355. It's a spot where we're not really doing very much here. We're kind of tying into that intersection as it is. But as we move south, you can see that we've got 2 lanes of traffic really in each direction at this point, approaching that intersection. And then as we move south, I'll slide to the next plan. You can see that we're transitioning to 1 lane in each direction of vehicle travel. And then we're able to add in bike lanes on either side of the roadway, and a buffer in between the bike lane and the travel lane. I'm going to zoom in on that area a little bit so you can see what's going on. So hopefully you can see my cursor as well here. So this area here is the bike lane. It's 5 feet wide. It's against the curb of the roadway, the existing roadway. And then this striped hatch area, this is the buffer. So this is the separation between cars traveling and bicyclists traveling. In that buffer, what you're seeing here is paint marks. It's just painted stripes on the roadway. And the width of this in this location is 3 feet. So it's a good separation between cars doing 25, 30 miles an hour and bikes doing, 10 or 15. It's comfortable for bicyclists to use, and that separation is enhanced in this case where we're expecting to add in a concrete barrier that positively separates the bikes from the vehicles. And that concrete barrier is a precast, a pre-made system. It's a concrete, low concrete curb, essentially. It's a 2 foot wide, and low to the ground. It'll be visible for cars and bikes. It'll be a positive barrier, so cars can't swerve over into that bike lane without jumping over the curb. Um, and that really brings up the safety and the usability of that bike lane. If it's just paint on the asphalt, then, well, as I said, it's very easy for cars to swerve over into that lane if they're getting around another vehicle that's turning left, for example, um, or just absentmindedly swerving over if they're looking down their cell phone or something like that. So then moving up in here, we've got the other thing we're doing is we're narrowing the travel lanes where we can. And that really enhances the idea of drivers that they need to slow down through this town center. It shouldn't be a super highway. It should be nice slow speeds for everyone traveling through this area. So narrowing the travel lanes where we can really helps that slow those speeds down. We are including turn lanes where we need to. This one in this case is a left turn lane, and then there'll be a through lane here. You can see in the background that this right now is 2 travel lanes going south on Washington and 2 travel lanes going north on Washington. And then this, you can see the grayed out arrows here. That's a shared left and through lane. So we're reducing 4 lanes into 2 essentially, with the addition of the turn lanes. So how to read these plans a little bit more. The gray lines and sign shapes and shading, all of that stuff is what's out there now. And then the darker, the black and the green signs and line work are all of the proposed work. So that's how you can see what's changing in these plans. Okay, I'm gonna move south again. And I'm going to point out a couple things on this plan. This is pretty consistent with the one we just went over. 2 travel lanes, one in each direction. Bike lanes on the curbs and buffers in between the bike lanes and the travel lanes. One of the things you'll notice here, though, is we've got these green block shapes on the roadway. And that's where we have conflict areas between the bicyclists and vehicles. So where vehicles turn in and out of driveways, where they're crossing over the bike lane for a left turn. We're not showing that in this location, but that would be another use for those green areas. And I'm sure you've seen these elsewhere. It's just a green paint that highlights that it's a location where you need to look out for bicyclists. as a when you're driving a car, or when you're driving a bike, where you need to look out for turning vehicles coming across your path. So it's a good visual indication for that safety area. The other thing you'll notice here is this location where this wide hatched out area is. We are putting in street parking in this location. So this larger sort of rectangle area, that would be a location where street parking is proposed. And that is a sort of a floating parking system where the bike lane is against the curb, still consistently against the curb. And the parked cars are pushed towards the travel lanes. So right on the edge of the roadway travel lanes, pretty easy for people to park. And this sort of further buffers the bike lane from traveling vehicles.
Seth, if you can zoom in a little bit, probably would be helpful for people to see the plans a little bit better. Thanks.
Yeah, okay,
Yep,
that's a
perfect.
good idea. I will do that as we move through here too.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can see we've got sort of a wider travel lane through here, narrow. We don't need that much room for parking. A little bit of a buffer and a bike lane, you know, pretty consistently all the way through. And where these parking floating parking areas are, we wouldn't need those concrete barriers as the buffer. So I'm going to move south again, but I'm going to point out one thing here is this solid green area. This is part of a bike box for the next intersection, and I'll explain that as we get down here. So I'm going to move south here. Now this, as I was just mentioning, there's this bike box at the Dawson Ave intersection. And what that is a way for cyclists to navigate through this intersection and make safe left turns. So at this point, when they're making left turns, they'll be integrated with the flow of traffic through that intersection. They'll follow they should follow the signals, the street lights, street signals for traffic. When there's a left turn indicated with a green arrow, they'll be able to make that left turn. But in order to do that, they need to be in the travel lane, and to be visible, they need to be in front of turning vehicles to do that, right? So it allows cyclists to, in the bike lane, travel up north when there's a red stop, come across in the bike box. This is an area just for cyclists. Vehicles need to stop at the stop bar, which is behind it. And cyclists will stop right in front of turning vehicles. When the green arrow starts, then the cyclists will be in front of vehicles. They'll make their way through the intersection, making a left, going west on Dawson Ave, enter that bike lane on Dawson, and then the cars can move on beyond them. So we're trying to integrate bike boxes in this project wherever we have bike lanes on the intersecting roadway. So this is one location where we're doing that. Also, we've got these green hatches, the long traverse through this intersection. This one's a little bit strange because we've got really two intersections in one, right? So right now, this sort of spur of Washington veers off to the right as you go south, and the main travel is down Washington towards the 10th Center. we've got this right now, we've got this huge expanse of asphalt, right? It's really not really used as a roadway. It's kind of an awkward intersection. We've got driveways on both roads, and then this nice little park area as we go south. So one of the things that we were asked to do was look for opportunities to not only enhance the safety within the roadway, but also to enhance the safety of pedestrians walking along the side. And this is a proposal to put in a little bit of an island here in this asphalt. Remove the asphalt. This could be it could be landscaped area. There could be park benches. There, it could be, you know, most definitely a better walking route north and south on the east side of Washington. So instead of as would happen right now, is that people would walk up on the sidewalk on the east side of Washington. They would cross over the little spur, and then they would have to keep going north here. Instead, it would be a direct travel across the island, and then a much shorter crossing of the spur, and then they can keep going. It's more of a direct route, and removing that asphalt, I think, is a really big win for everyone. I'm going to keep going south here. We're pretty consistent within the roadway still. 2 lanes of travel in each direction down to 1. We've got left turn lanes, parking where we can, and another bike box here for the left turn onto Beale. And then one other thing I want to point out here is that we've got another proposal to remove some of the pavement. And that's this location here. This is a little island here on the west side of the Beale intersection. And what we've got here is approaching from the east, approaching to the west on Beale. We've got a left turn lane. So this lane of Beale is going left only. We've got a through lane. And then on the western spur of Beale, we've got two lanes of traffic. But this center lane really should never be used because there's really only 1 lane of travel entering it. So we thought, hey, why don't we expand this median? Again, it could be landscaped. There could be enhancements in that area. It could be stormwater management, which we'll need for this project. But it really effectively shortens the crossing distance for pedestrians on this side of this intersection. So they're really only crossing 1 lane of travel, and then they've got a refuge area in the center, and then they can cross the other 2 when it's safe to do so. So another little small thing that might that we're looking at for enhancing safety. We'll keep coming south, but I want to point out more parking area in here. This location just south of Beale Ave. Parking here, a little bit of parking here. Again, consistently 2 lanes of travel down to 1 in each direction, turn lanes where we can fit them in. Bike box here, we're at the intersection of Middle and Washington, and I'm gonna, a lot of the sidewalk work is really concentrated in this location here. So those that might be familiar, this area of Middle, the sidewalk narrow, starts at a nice wide sidewalk area, pretty comfortable for folks to travel down, for walking down. And then it narrows to a very narrow section, and then it widens out again. So there's one building that sort of pushes out into the sidewalk that narrows it much narrower than any other sidewalk in the town center. So the goal with this work is to expand that sidewalk, create a much wider path of travel for people walking through here. Again, bringing in that vitality for the businesses, enhancing the walking area, but also including in the bike lanes. So again, we're taking one of those lanes of travel on Middle and creating a wider sidewalk and a new bike lane, a buffered bike lane. So this is what you're seeing in this area, all of this sort of dappled patterning. That's all new concrete sidewalk. It's expanded from in this area, let's see, 12 feet out to 17, and then it expands even farther out to 22 feet. The reason why that there's that little jog there is that there's some utilities underground in Middle that we're trying to avoid, which would be a big cost increase if we actually impacted those utilities. So I'm going to keep going south on Washington quickly, and then I'll jump back to Middle in a second. Again, not much new to point out here, although there's this one area where we have a solid green bike lane on the southbound direction, and we do that treatment when it's exclusively bikes should be in that area, but it's not against the curb lane. So you can see that there is a right turn lane against the curb, and then the bike lane in between that right turn lane and the southbound travel lane. So we'll have vehicles cross over the bike lane in this hatched area, and then get into the right turn lane queue, stop at the intersection, and then so this area of the bike lane is not protected, so we add this green paint to enhance that. And then we end at Jefferson, where we have another bike box where we're expecting the bikes to turn left or right. There is no bike lane, I believe, on Jefferson currently, but maybe that's something that we can look at for the future. So that's the south end of the project. Ooh, I'm going to keep going south. Here we go. And now we're going to pick up on Middle, and now we're switching orientations. Sorry about that. So north is up in this plan sheet. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit even more on this location because the road work is pretty consistent with what we were looking at on Washington. New bike lanes, buffer area, taking 2 lanes of travel down to 1. Not much different in that location, but this is the big change here, where we've got what used to be a very narrow 5-foot sidewalk. We're expanding it out to a 12-foot sidewalk, which fits in much better with the town center. Nice wide sidewalks throughout, and you know, we're expecting this to be a big make a big difference for pedestrians in this area. This building, you can see the outline here, has a driveway entrance. So that'll be, you know, we're not cutting off access to anyone. We're keeping all of that open. but we're making sure that it's safe in that conflict zone where cars come across the sidewalk or come across the bike lane. So we'll be treating that as a driveway entrance, but the safety priority is the pedestrians walking through and the bicyclists crossing over that as well. Yeah, so that's the end of our expanded sidewalk. The bike lanes keep traveling out to the east. And here we are back at 355, this intersection here on the right side of the page here. This is a location where we're still doing a little bit of work. We'd love to be able to continue that bike lane up to this intersection and maybe even through it. But we're just making sure that we have all of the room on the roadway to do that safely. This is a state road intersection, so there's a little bit more that we need to worry about, think about in that area. And we know that changes to how the vehicles traverse through this intersection will take a little bit more thought. So we're hoping to be able to bring that bike lane at least to this intersection, if not through it, but we're not quite showing that yet. Another thing that I'd love to bring up, we've just finished with the plans, but another thing I'd love to bring up is how we're treating bus stops. And that's something that we're also thinking quite a bit about as we're moving forward with this project. And it's still a bit of in the works. One of the things that we're thinking about is, generally buses will pull to the curb, and people can get on and off the bus right onto the curb itself. So if we're putting in a bike lane on the curbway, the way the buses would need to drop off people is they would need to pull across the bike lane, across the buffer, and stop, next to the curb. This definitely creates a conflict for cyclists. And it's also sort of confusing for bus drivers to pull across buffered lanes. So one of the things that we've been talking about with Ahmad's group is possibly installing some floating bus stops. So that would be a system where that would either bump out the curbway, bump out the sidewalk at the bus stops, or with the use of a pre-made system would sit in place in that area. So the buses wouldn't need to pull across the bike lanes. They would stop in the travel lanes, or in this case here, where I've got it up, they could stop on this curb lane, and that's turning lane really. And people would be able to get on and off the bus at curb height, and it would accommodate bicyclists coming up and over that, so a little bit of ramp system on either side of that. So we do have buses, bus stops sort of throughout the project. But this is one area that we were just pointing that out here. So with that, I've walked through all of the concept plans as they are, and I will turn it back to Ahmad to. I see there's been quite a bit of chat questions. Haven't been able to follow them, so hopefully we can moderate some Q&A.
Thanks, Tess. I've been looking at the chats and I see a lot of comments. So thanks, Tess, for talking a little bit about the bus stops, because I think that was one of the concerns, and it sounds like there's still a little bit more of work to do to make sure that the bus stops will not be a problem in this project, or will have enough space for them and for the lift to allow easy or not too much conflict with cars and with pedestrians, and have enough space for the buses to be able to stop and lift wheelchairs as needed. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the comments I see. I see, of course, some people are supporting the road diet, some people are against road diet, and they're concerned about congestions. I see support for the bike lanes. I see people against the bike lanes. But I'll just want to go back a little bit and explain how do we come up with those ideas or those concepts. We have a bikeway master plan that was studied for 3-4 years, and it was adopted by the Mayor and Council in 2017. And the bikeway master plan is calling for bike lanes on North Washington. Of course, we already have bike lanes on East Middle Lane and on Beale and on Dawson that would be built. So the bike lanes are an element of the bikeway master plan. And therefore, what we are doing is we are implementing this bikeway master plan. This is just one component of this project. As you see, the bike lanes already exist on East Middle Lane. We are just adding buffers to them. But on North Washington, that's new. And this is not just the bike lanes on North Washington so we can have them in town center. Actually, we are having a network, and a part of this network that the bike lanes will go on North Washington and will keep going, and then they will turn left on Martins Lane and then go to Montgomery College, which is one of the important centers for the bike lanes. So I understand some people might say, well, I don't see many bikes and maybe we don't need bike lanes, but a part of what we are doing in the city, we are building a network for bicyclists, and based on the bikeway master plan, we are supposed to put bike lanes on North Washington. And again, bicycles are, it's a part of the transportation and transportation system, and more users are using the bike lanes. And obviously, when you have a bike lane, people use them. And if you don't have bike lanes, people will be afraid to ride on the street like North Washington. So we are just implementing what has been adopted in the past. Another component is congestion, which I agree with people who said that will be more congested. And obviously, when we start to look at this project at the beginning as staff, that was our main concern. How can we make 2 lanes to become 1 lane? That's obviously will add more cars in this 1 lane than when you have them in two lanes. And that's a part of the analysis that we did. And that's why it took us some time to reach this point. And so we analyzed this. And if you notice probably in some of those plans, we stayed away a little bit away from the intersections, because the intersections are really the bottlenecks. So if you look at, for example, 355 and Middle, we did not add parking or road diet at the first block from 355 to Monroe. Even west of Monroe, we did not really have much of the road diet, because this is really the bottleneck. That's when, if we reduce this to 1 lane, we can guarantee you that you will see this queue going way beyond Maryland Avenue from 355. So right now you have 2 lanes traveling, actually 3 lanes if you're going eastbound on East Middle Lane, because one of them will turn right. But you'll have enough lanes to contain the cars going eastbound. So congestion is a concern, but we have looked at it and we analyzed it, and we try to make as much as possible tweaks to the plans to accommodate the parking, accommodate the bike lanes, but at the same time, leave some space to not cause main congestions. But also there's another argument. Some people will say, what if there is a congestion? I mean, do we care more about cars being congested a little bit and going slower? Or do we want to have 2 lanes and everybody's going fast? So, I mean, all of those discussions, and arguments have been thought through, and I think at the end, the mayor and council, actually some of them ask about the congestions, and we explain to them. But I believe we are reaching like a midpoint or a level that we feel comfortable that we are trying to achieve what this project is trying to do, which is road diet, which is improving safety for all modes of transportations. But at the same time, we are not totally making a choice that this project will cause major congestion in town center. And I saw a comment from Judy, who lives in town center and see traffic, and she contested that there is really not much congestion that she see, at least maybe those days. As some of you probably would know, traffic has been really went down, I would say significantly in the last year or so. And I understand people are going back to school and going back to work, but it has not been, it's not expected really to be back the way it was pre-pandemic. So I just wanted to bring this up. The other thing I've seen in the comments is about widening sidewalk. Obviously, that's a good thing, and we're all for that, but we don't have the right of way. So the right of way is very limited, and the right of way is what the city own away from people's properties. So when we have the bike, and that's why we were stuck. Like I remember one time the mayor was saying, why don't we put parking and bike lanes and wider sidewalk? I said, that's great, but the problem is we don't have space for all of this. And that's why we are limited with the space, and we cannot really get all of this. So we are trying to fit one travel lane, one bike lane, and that's how we reach this this design that you see at this point. I will stop a little bit, and I will try allow others who have seen some of the comments to answer some of them. I just want to speak about those big points in general. I think they will address many of your comments, and then we'll look on the side and see if there are any more questions we can answer tonight. Yes, I mean, when properties get developed, we will be able to add more sidewalks. I mean, this is really the plan, is when any, and it happens today, and anytime we get a new development in town center or anywhere in the city, that's our opportunity to ask the developer to push their building back if they're building a new building and have wider sidewalks. And we can give you examples and examples. For this project, we are just being able to add widen sidewalk on the south side of East Mill Lane. And also a side note, this is very expensive. Like the project has more than doubled the cost just because we are adding this sidewalk on the side, because it's not just the concrete that we put the sidewalk. We are actually have to move some utilities. Some of the street lights have to be relocated. Actually, the traffic signal are impacted, and then the drainage and the inlets. So the project gets really much more expensive when we start to get into moving the curbs. Enforcement, obviously, yes, that's something the police will be working with us on it. And the police, actually, as you know, their office is right at the corner of North Washington and West Montgomery, I believe, or East Montgomery. So they will be in this area. Improving transit, obviously, we agree with you. As you know, it's the county who managed the ride-on, and WMATA managed the metro buses, and we are in constant communication with them to improve the bus system in general and let them slow their speed and be able to provide the service for the residents. I invite anybody from staff, if you see any comments you see or questions you can answer, please do so. I'm trying to read while I'm speaking.
Yeah, Ahmad, I can read some questions. So one question is about boarding the bus. I guess using wheelchair and lift requires a stop of bus or paratransit up to 5 minutes. Has this been considered?
I think Seth's talked about this a little bit, but if not, I think this might be something that we still need to look at. And if needed, maybe some of the bus stops might be relocated here or there, or the parking spaces that we have, to make sure that we have enough space for them to park and at the same time to stop and have enough space to drop off and pick up people or lift the chairs.
Good evening. This is Brian Barnowoods, the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator, and I do the Vision Zero work as well. I've been trying to keep track of the chat. There's been a lot of really great dialogue that's happening there, and I did want to point out a couple things. Part of the Vision Zero study, we looked at essentially the crash history of the city of Rockville. And during the period that we studied, which was 2016 to 2020, there were 4 crashes on this section of North Washington. 3 of them resulted in serious injuries, and 1 resulted in a fatality. And they all took place on the stretch of road where this project is located. And so one reason for safety is, you know, a project like this, reduce the number of lanes, providing a little bit more separation for people bicycling and also people walking and people driving from each of the modes will help contribute to making a safer trip. Additionally, there are some comments about congestion, you know, and how that will impact it. And certainly road projects do impact the flow of traffic, but I think it's really important to note that North Washington Street is parallel to Maryland 355. And so many motorists who are using North Washington Street as kind of a throughput, often vehicles who are traveling faster than the posted speed limit or using that as a way to kind of skip through, who are not visiting those businesses, they'll be encouraged to stay on Maryland 355. And so I think the congestion that we see in North Washington isn't going to be the same thing as thinking, oh, well, we're removing 1 lane, so traffic's going to get twice as worse, because that's not going to be the case at all. People are going to react to the change in the roadway, and they're going to change their travel behavior as such. And those, you know, as Emad and Seth had alluded to earlier, find that equilibrium as well. The last thing I want to know is that someone did bring up a new development, and yeah, as new projects come in, certainly sidewalks, especially along North Washington, will be built out as part of those developments and the requirements as such of those projects. And when we think of more people, I think it's also important that we think about not so much as like traffic as like thinking more about in just the geometry of it. If there are a lot more people, it's important that everyone has options and different modes of travel that they can use so that we can all share that space. There would never be enough space if everyone had their own car. And so by giving opportunities for bicyclists and giving opportunities for wider pedestrians, you're essentially providing more options for there to be fewer cars than what we would see by having kind of this car first project. But those were kind of the concepts. There's still more coming in, so I'll try and review and follow up again.
I see some suggestion about removing parking. We can look at that. However, it was a part of the reason of performing this project is to add parking on those 2 streets. And as I mentioned, at some point we had 3 options. Some of them had different number of parking spaces than others, and the Mayor and Council reviewed them all and agreed at the end to choose one option, which was not really the most of parking spaces, but definitely it added parking space in the town center, and it sounds like this is what they agreed on to implement this project by adding those bike lanes. A question about the ULI report. Yeah, we can provide a link to that. I'm not sure if it's online at this point, but I think it is actually, but we will follow up after this meeting and point out where you can see this ULI report. I mean, the ULI report obviously is, I believe it's like 45 pages or so. The road diet point portion of it is probably maybe 4 or 5 pages, but you can look at it if needed.
Emad, I was trying to pull up a link for it right now, and I'm getting this message from the ULI website that they're doing website maintenance, but the report is called Rockville Town Center Strengthening Its Vitality by the Urban Land Institute. And so I guess
Did you see?
after Sunday, December 5 at 2 p.m., we can access their website.
Yeah, I actually I opened it this morning. However, I'm not sure what link is that, but if I get a chance, I will get on it and put it in the chat box. I mean, about the parking again, it's I think yeah, there is plenty of parking, but in garages, and I think the point that I heard, and I'm not like a business owner or economist or anything like this, but what we heard is that people want to be able to park and get in the store, get what they need, and leave again. And probably there is not enough parking to do this. Like for example, Panera is a place that you cannot really get into by parking nearby. You have to probably park far and walk to it. So the idea that I understand was to allow those few parking spaces for people to be able to come in, park maybe for just a few minutes, get in, get there what they need, and then go back out. Anything else anybody from staff can look at and see if they can answer? So I see Stas put this slide at the end. I mean, as you see, he put his email address there and the city contacts. You can obviously contact me or Daniel or Brian, but this one, transportation inquiry at rockvillemd.gov, actually will go to all our staff, including the three of us and more. We will follow up. Obviously, we'll read all of those comments, and we will wait to hear more in the next few days from residents and visitors of town center. And we appreciate the support we get from you, and we appreciate also the comments that maybe people are questioning some of the components of this plan. But our plan is really to try to get all of those comments, try to address all of them as much as we can, and move on to the next phase, which is about maybe like 60% design. That's when we'll get into the details about the utility poles, the drainage, and all of those fun stuff. And our goal is try to finish this design like in spring or late spring, so we can be able to bid this project and go for construction in the summer. So that's kind of the timeline we have for this project. We will also try to have like some information, additional information on our website for this project. Maybe some of the comments we received tonight and our answer to that. It's almost 7 o'clock. If anybody has one last thing to mention from staff or from our participants, please do so now.
I'd just like to say that this, I'm loving the dialogue that your participants are having. This chat is really quite interesting. I don't see a lot of questions, but I love how folks are talking to each other and sort of debating the pros and cons. So kudos.
Thanks, Des. All right, any final comments from anyone? Armin, did you put the link for ULI report?
Put the link that we have in our website.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so here it is for those who wants. I'll give you a minute or two to copy it if you want, or ULI report, and we will add it to our page for this project. Thanks to you all for the positive comments we got at the end and the thank yous, and hopefully we have provided enough information for you. And again, please feel free to send us more questions or suggestions in the next few days, and we will do our best to incorporate them in the design. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Okay, at this point, we will stop recording and disable the chat. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Armin.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye.
Of course.